Okay everybody, this is the penultimate issue of Green Lantern War Journal, meaning it's time to start resolving some plot lines while setting up for the big finale. Green Lantern War Journal number 11 is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art by Montos, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Dave Sharp. The title of this issue is Knights and Dragons. With the Darkstar ring on his finger, John Stewart continues to relive the memories of the old god Olgren. Since Byla is himself an old god and was actually present during the memories that John is witnessing, Byla is able to project his present-day self into that memory to communicate with John. He gives some more context to how these tranquil, happy people became the horrific terrors that we now know them to be. Apparently, Ajna, who would go on to become the Revenant Queen, got on the bad side of her uncle Bjolter, so Bjolter tricked her father Olgren into killing her? That tragedy is what drove Olgren mad, and the rest of the gods had to unmake him and scatter the pieces in order to save all of creation from his wrath. Byla literally says the story of Bjolter's punishment is a story for another time, so look forward to that in whatever comic Philip Kennedy Johnson writes next, I guess. Still, Byla made contact with John to make sure the stakes are clear. If Olgren's will is greater than John's, then John will become Olgren's vessel, and all of the carnage that the old gods sought to prevent by neutralizing Olgren so long ago would happen anyway. Ajna, the Revenant Queen, is convinced that she's won. All they have to do now is kill Byla, which will dispel the inescapable gravity field that's been keeping them all contained. But suddenly she realizes that John hasn't been overwhelmed by Olgren's will at all. He's still fully in control of himself, and he learned a lot from the whole experience. This series has frequently reminded us that, at his core, John Stewart is a builder. He gets inside of things, studies how they work, learning how to take them apart and put them back together. The Revenant Queen assumed that there was no way that the will of John Stewart could compete with the will of Olgren, so she happily put the Darkstar ring on John's finger. But all that did was allow John the chance to study it, understand it, and figure out a solution to this whole mess. This entire time, the war against Olgren's forces has been waged at the former site of the Necropolis. The debris field surrounding the Darkstar of the Fen is made from the shattered pieces of the tomb that once held the Darkstar ring. And when John got a closer look at the ruins, he noticed that there was technology running through all of it. He realized that the necropolis wasn't just a tomb. It was also a machine that allowed the old gods to continue drawing on the power of Olgren's will. After all, his was a will that could create and destroy universes, and that sort of power is difficult to let go of. So now John takes everything that he's learned, his observation of the ruins, his inspection of Olgren's memories, his time wearing the Darkstar ring. He puts it all together and starts building. John begins rebuilding the necropolis, sealing the Darkstar of the Fen, and cutting off the flow of the demonic horde. But the danger isn't over yet. Byla still can't afford to drop the gravity field until the Revenant Queen and the rest of her minions are dealt with. Fortunately, John has backup. Guy Gardner and Shepard arrive just in time to help John finish this fight. So, I guess John wasn't sent somewhere else in the multiverse? I don't know how that makes sense, but whatever, I guess. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Star Shroud has encased the entire Steelworks building in some kind of barrier, and trapped both John Henry and Natasha Irons outside. They're about ready to call in the entire Superman family for backup, but it might already be too late. Star Shroud has saturated the building with his own sickly power, allowing him to control and contort the reality of this space however he sees fit. Ellie can't seem to undo this or break free of it. And to make matters worse, her mom has been infected and will become one of the Radiant Dead very soon. As Ellie desperately searches for a way out, she decides to tell her mom the truth, that she isn't the real Ellie. But in a twist I didn't see coming, John's mom already knew. She's aware of her own condition. She knows that her memory comes and goes, leaving her confused and scared when it does. She also knows that John would do anything to make her happy. Even pretend that Ellie was still alive. And his mom went along with it because seeing her happy made John happy, and she wants to give her son as much joy as she can before she's gone. And I imagine that part of her was glad to indulge in the charade. Playing house with this construct of Ellie probably brought back so many good memories of her time with her real daughter. All this time, she had been fighting in her own way to make life better for her son, just like she always has. Her life was spent fighting for equal rights so that her children and grandchildren could have better lives than she could ever hope to experience herself. And even now, as she approaches the end, all she cares about is the happiness of her children. Heroes don't come from nowhere. They're shaped by everyone and everything in their lives. When John defends people all across the universe, he's following his mother's example. She is the one who taught him to be a hero. She is the one who showed him what it means to be strong. And he always thought that his mom deserved a Green Lantern ring far more than he did. It's in this moment that Ellie sees the way out. All this time, both Ellie and the reader have been thinking about John's mom as this fragile, frail old woman who needs to be protected from everything. We looked at her with sympathy and with pity, only really thinking about her in terms of what her loss will mean for John. We've defined her by the tragedy she represents instead of the person she is. Hell, I don't think I've actually called her by name once in this entire review series. I've just been calling her John and Ellie's mom. But she's more than that. Her name is Shirley Stewart, and we completely missed the fact that, though her mind and body may be failing, her will to keep fighting is just as strong as it ever was. So Ellie decides to give Shirley the power to stop being a passive observer, stop being a victim who needs saving, and fight her own battle one last time. In a flash of light, Ellie and Shirley combine into one being, Ellie's power guided by Shirley's will. And suddenly, I feel kind of sorry for Star Shroud. This whole issue is about misjudging strength. We assumed that because Shirley was old and sick, she was helpless. Just like how we assumed that John was out of his depth because Olgren was this all-powerful elder god. But in both cases, we were defining these characters by the adversities they face, instead of focusing on the people they are. John is a Green Lantern, an ascended being, a guardian, the master builder, a brother, and a son. And the foundation of who he is as a person is something he owes to his mother, who never stopped fighting no matter how hard life became. So it's no wonder that she has the will to face down a cosmic monster of her own. I think this is the best issue of Green Lantern War Journal we've had in a while. The narrative was driven by a deep understanding of the Stewart family, and subverted the surface-level assumptions we made about what these characters are capable of. As long as the creative team can keep up this level of quality for one more issue, this series will end on a high note. So tell me what you think. Was John's victory too easy? Were you surprised by what Shirley had to say? What will the Stewart family look like by the end of issue number 12? Subscribe if you haven't already, because next time we're talking about the series finale, and I know you don't want to miss out. Until then, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan, we'll talk again soon.